We begin SportsCenter with breaking news and an absolute nuclear trade in the NBA. The Lakers have acquired five-time first-team All-NBA superstar Luka Doncic in a blockbuster that sends four-time first-team All-NBA superstar Anthony Davis to the Dallas Mavericks.
This is SportsCenter.
It is the SportsCenter. Kevin Connors, Amina Smith here with you, and just a blockbuster. What's happening in the NBA right now? In the wee hours of this Sunday morning, just all hell has broken loose, Kevin.
An absolute blockbuster mega trade involving two of the biggest superstars in all of the NBA. We told you the two biggest names. Here's the complete deal, and Shams saying, yes, this is real because it didn't feel like it. Dallas sending Luka Doncic, Maxi Kleber, and Markieff Morris to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. Max Christie and the Lakers' first-round pick in 2029. The Utah Jazz had to get involved to make the whole thing happen. They land Jalen Hood-Schifino and a couple of second-round picks. But the big news is Luka to the Lakers, Anthony Davis to the Dallas Mavericks. And we bring in Shams Charania, who broke this trade, and the internet. Shams, how did this deal materialize?
This deal materialized in the shadows. This came out of nowhere. This is maybe the most stunning trade, definitely that I've been a part of in recent NBA history, as far as it was never clearly out there. And you saw two teams in Rob Pelinka with the Lakers, Dallas Mavericks, Nico Harrison there, doing this deal. And I'm told Luka Doncic, Anthony Davis, LeBron James, the players, coaches, a lot of people on both sides with the Mavericks and Lakers had no idea. I can assuredly tell you it's a fact. LeBron James had no idea this was coming. Anthony Davis had no idea this was coming. I'm told Luka Doncic is still stunned about this trade. But when you look at the totality of what just occurred, Luka Doncic is a 25-year-old, like you said, mega star, perennial All-NBA player. He's someone that you think of as untouchable, as a guy that's never going to be traded. I'm told that the Mavericks actually approached the Lakers and offered Luka Doncic a few days ago in a trade. Very recently, the Mavericks went out. They knew exactly who they wanted. They wanted Anthony Davis. That's the player that if they were ever going to trade Luka Doncic, if this was even a thought that was going to cross their mind, it was for AD. And so the Mavericks called the Lakers, offered Luka Doncic, and that's when the Lakers had to huddle internally. They've never offered Anthony Davis ever in a trade. But if you're going to get offered Luka Doncic, that's when Jeannie Buss, Rob Pelinka, and that organization, they had to meet. And it's Luka Doncic at the end of the day. And they went out, and he's a 25-year-old player. For the next decade, you could look at him as the face of your franchise. And on the other side, with the Mavericks, you have someone who's 31. He's in the prime of his career. He wants to win a championship now, Anthony Davis does. And you pair him with Kyrie Irving, who he's friends with and close with. Jason Kidd coached him on the 2020 championship Lakers. Jared Dudley, there's other members of that coaching staff that he's very close with. And Nico Harrison, he has a relationship with through Nike. So you take the curtains back, and it makes a lot of sense in many ways. But this coming right now, it's the most stunning trade that I've definitely been a part of.
Can Luka and LeBron James win games with this roster? Absolutely. Can they win a championship with this roster? No, they can't. I don't think the Lakers are done yet. But look, when you talk about Luka Doncic, we know that he's an international superstar. We know that he's a guy that could go out there and get you 38 and 9 every single night. But what we do know is that Luka Doncic has a history of coming into training camp out of shape. Luka Doncic has a history of being injured when it comes to soft tissue injuries. We also know that LeBron James is one of the greatest, if not the greatest, when it comes down to taking care of your body. I believe that Luka Doncic is everything that LeBron James is everything that Luka Doncic needs. Learn how to be a professional, learn how to be a superstar, learn how to be a franchise player. I think this is going to be great for the Lakers long term. I just don't know short term. I believe that they're not done, though.
I talked to Mavs general manager Nico Harrison and asked him the motivation for the trade. He says, quote, "I believe that defense wins championships, and I believe getting an all-defensive center and an all-NBA player with a defensive mindset gives us a better chance." We're built to win now and in the future. So that is Nico Harrison's, public explanation of why they're motivated to trade Luka Doncic, a guy who's been a perennial MVP candidate, entering his prime, for Anthony Davis.
All right, that's the explanation of Tim McMahon. We bring in our Brian Windhorst now. Brian, obviously a complete bomb here in the NBA tonight. I think a lot of people are surprised the Lakers would move Anthony Davis. I think there's astonishment that Dallas would move on from a 25-year-old perennial MVP candidate in the prime of his career. Why make this move if you're the Mavericks?
I know that there's a temptation to focus on the Lakers here because they potentially just acquired the next great Laker, and it's an amazing story when you look at the history of their franchise. But the story of the moment and what my phone is filling up with is the reaction to the Dallas Mavericks making this move. I had an all-star, current NBA all-star text me and say, do you know how much the Mavericks must hate Luka? I mean, this is what they're talking about in the league. I've had, veteran coaches text me and say they can't believe they saw this. They just have never seen anything like this. And Luka is 25 years old, okay? He is under contract for several more years, and this summer he is already eligible for a Supermax. I find it completely unbelievable that he would not sign that contract. This was not done because the Mavericks didn't think Luka wanted to be there. Even if he didn't sign that contract, you would have a whole year to figure it out. This was done because the Mavericks didn't think that going forward with Luka was best for their franchise. Think about that statement. A 25-year-old who's been first-team All-NBA the last 5 years and carried them to the finals a few months ago. And they said, we want out of the Luka Doncic business, and we want out of it now. They didn't put him on auction, Kevin. They didn't say, we're going to trade Luka Doncic, bring us your offers. They targeted one team, and they made the offer and deal in stealth mode. This is just shocking.
So, I want to take you here to New York City. After the game against the Knicks, LeBron James has friends and family in town. They go out to a restaurant to get a late dinner. The Lakers aren't flying back to L.A. until Sunday. While they're at dinner, he finds out on his phone, I'm told, sources close to LeBron told me this, that the trade was happening. He is surprised. He is still processing it. And quite frankly, had no sense that the deal was coming or in the works. I had another source tell me that after the game, Anthony Davis is sending out congratulatory text messages about the Lakers' effort getting the win without him against the Knicks. So clearly Anthony Davis didn't know this was coming as well. And here we are. It's kind of on the 17-year anniversary of the Lakers in the cloak of anonymity, being able to pull Pau Gasol from the Grizzlies, a very similar fashion. They get this deal done without people suspecting a deal is in the works.
Let's now say hello to Stephen A. Smith, who, of course, is on our NBA Countdown desk. And Stephen A., what a blockbuster to drop on a Saturday night. But nonetheless, here we are. Luka Doncic going to the Lakers, Anthony Davis going to the Dallas Mavericks. What's your reaction?
I'm shocked. I'm shocked like most, if not the entire basketball world appears to be. It's not something that you would have ever anticipated, primarily from the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic is a global star. He's a global superstar in this game. You know what he can bring to the table. He's fresh off an appearance in the NBA Finals. He's 25 years of age. He's a perennial all-star and a 25-point per game scorer, averaging 28 points a game this year, even though he only played 22 games. Nobody would have thought that you would think to trade Luka Doncic. So there's a lot of speculation as to why that may have happened. Did he want out? Did something happen that the team said, okay, enough's enough, let's get rid of him? We don't know the answers to that question at this particular moment in time, but that's speculation. And then when you look on the Anthony Davis side, this is a guy that's a big-time player. He's an all-star. He's one of the elite defensive players in the game of basketball, a rim protector, a scorer, good for 25 and 12 a night, etc. And the Lakers moving away from him, what does that say in terms of their message to LeBron? LeBron James is 40 years of age in his 22nd season. You're looking to compete for a championship. Anthony Davis himself was on the record saying we need a 5 so I can get to my natural position at the 4, and I think that's what we could use in order to move forward and potentially win a championship. By this move happening, the Lakers have no rim protector. Luka nor LeBron James can do that. So the season, in a lot of people's eyes, is a wash for the Los Angeles Lakers, and it appears like they've said to LeBron James, I'm sorry, maybe another time, but we're certainly not going to be thinking about a championship this year when we have nothing on our front court after losing Anthony Davis. And so that's what you're looking at right now. It's a whole bunch of questions, a whole bunch of intrigue, and a shocker, maybe the biggest shock of a trade that many of us have seen in NBA history.
This is not really about the Lakers. It's not really about LeBron. This is about the Dallas Mavericks and Luka Doncic. This move, in the moment here, believe is one of the most stunning trades, one of the biggest and most stunning trades in the history of the league. And obviously, because it is involving a legacy franchise and a legacy player like the Lakers and LeBron, we're going to tend to focus on that. But that's not where the fascinating part is here, is my phone has exploded with agents and executives and players and all people with the game. The focus in the league is the Dallas Mavericks' decision to trade Luka Doncic here. This is basically a rebuke of him. This is them saying that they don't think they can win with him. They're worried about the kind of defense he plays. They're worried about the kind of way he keeps himself in condition. They're worried, obviously, about his ability to focus at the biggest moments.
Guys, this is the most stunning trade in NBA history. That's what sources on all fronts, people involved around Anthony Davis, around Luka Doncic. This came together in the last several days. I'm told the Dallas Mavericks called the Los Angeles Lakers. Nico Harrison, the general manager of the Mavericks, called Rob Pelinka, the vice president of the Lakers, and offered Luka Doncic in a trade. Not for LeBron, not for Austin Reeves and picks, for Anthony Davis. And this never happens in the NBA where a player 25 years old, in the prime of his career, obviously about 6 years younger than Anthony Davis, who's 31 years old, also in the prime of his career. But Luka Doncic, he has the runway of the next 10 years to being the face of the Lakers. That's exactly why they made this deal. And from the Mavericks' perspective, it's going all in a win-now move. They really felt that they are better positioned to win a championship. Internally in that organization, they feel that Anthony Davis puts them in position more than Luka Doncic does to winning a championship. Will they be right? We're going to know in a matter of months, in a matter of the next 1 to 2, 3 years. Mm-hmm. But this is obviously just shocking, stunning. I think people in the league are still, I don't think they still understand what just happened. And I think we're all trying to figure out exactly what just happened.
All right, the shock of this trade has hit every single facet of not just the NBA, but in sports. But let's contextualize this with Phoenix's Kevin Durant. He knows a thing or two about being traded late in the night, switching teams, and that being seismic across the NBA. It happened 2 years ago when he was dealt to the Suns. Here was his reaction Saturday night to this deal going down.
Yeah, I would have never thought Luka Doncic get traded at this age, mid-season. Yes, NBA is a wild place, man. If he can get traded, then anybody's up, It's got to be the biggest trade I've seen since I've been in the league or since I've been watching the sport. This is insane. So, yeah, every other team might get confidence and say, I'll trade my you know what I'm saying? My top players and a few of my top players. If this ain't working, but, yeah, I'm still shocked.
KD saying what a lot of us can't say on live television as we welcome in NBA analyst David Dennis Jr. into the program. Dallas was concerned with Luka's injury history. You just heard Sham say the calf has been a nagging issue. So they went out and got Anthony Davis. You say what to that?
You know how nuts of a trade you have to be to upstage a Beyonce tour concert announcement? Like, that is how crazy this was. And to your point, there's so much going on about the Mavs that just did not make sense. Like, to your point about getting Anthony Davis because you're worried about Luka's injuries, you're trading away a guy who is locked into your franchise, who is 25 years old, who is all NBA. You can talk about his conditioning. He was 32, 10, and 6 in the playoffs last year. In the playoffs for his career, he has the second most points per game on average behind Michael Jordan. This dude got you to the finals. Moving on from him and not even getting the most that you can get, not getting all the Lakers picks, not getting Austin Reeves, not even opening this up to the rest of the league and saying, give me your best offer for anybody, because people are going to be lined up for Luka, and just calling the Lakers and saying, we specifically want Anthony Davis in the middle of the night and not talking to anybody else. None of this really makes sense. I don't care how bad this relationship and this situation had gotten between Luka and the Mavs. The way that they are moving and doing this trade is nonsensical, and more information is going to have to come out for me to understand why they're doing this, because Anthony Davis doesn't even make total sense with this roster. Their front court is loaded. They have Lively. They have Gafford. How is Anthony Davis going to spread the floor for Kyrie with those players right now? I don't get it, and I'm not sure what the Mavs are thinking here.
We deal now with Bobby Marks, and all due respect to the other pieces involved in this trade, Maxi Kleber notwithstanding. Max Christie, shout out. Bobby, your reaction to this move when you saw it cross your phone?
Yeah, certainly stunning, like the rest of us. When I saw the Shams tweet last night, I actually thought he did get hacked. To the point where I didn't want to retweet him because I didn't want to lose my job at ESPN. I picked up the phone and I said, "Are you good?" And he says, "Yeah, we're good. We're good." So there is certainly a stunning moment to that. Listen, I understand it that there is certainly a big majority that is killing the Mavericks for this trade. I actually like the trade for Dallas. I understand it from their perspective. Certainly getting an all-defensive center like Anthony Davis. Maybe you can pair him with Daniel Gafford here. Max Christie, get a big wing here. You get that future first. I think there's another move for both teams here. When you look at it from Dallas's perspective here, with those 3 first-round picks they can trade. Certainly for the Lakers, you've got to figure out, does that backcourt of Luka and Austin Reeves work, and who is playing center for you?
These two reporters on the pulse of these two franchises like nobody else in the business. Dave McMenamin, Tim McMahon joining us for their perspective from both teams. Dave, let's start with you in LA. AD, LeBron, obviously so much influence with this franchise. They had no idea this was forthcoming?
Yeah, LeBron was taken off guard by this. They had just completed the win against the Knicks the Lakers had. LeBron left the arena. The Lakers were staying over the night in New York. He went to a dinner with family and friends and found out on his phone, just like the rest of us did from Shams Breaking News, what was going down. I'm told he was surprised. He was still processing it as of the wee hours of Sunday morning. And again, didn't have an inclination that this was, starting to become a conversation between the Mavericks and the Lakers. And, now the next step becomes what LeBron will choose to do. I had someone posit to me that teams around the league, much like the Warriors did last year when you had Draymond Green kind of getting in LeBron James's ear about a potential trade before the Warriors actually inquired to the Lakers about a trade, we'll be doing the same thing with LeBron right now until LeBron makes it clear to the Lakers franchise what he chooses to do between now and February 6th.
All right, February 2nd this morning, that trade deadline. February 6th. Tim, Luka, 25 years young, face of the franchise. Stephen A. Smith said an international superstar, quite literally. So that begs the question, why are the Mavericks willing to send him to L.A.?
Yeah, I asked Nico Harrison, the Mavericks general manager, that exact question. And the first thing he said was defense wins championships, talking about bringing in Anthony Davis as that defensive anchor, to upgrade on that end of the floor. Says he believes they're built to win now and in the future. But look, they're not just doing this to upgrade the defense. This was about the Mavericks betting against Luka Doncic being able to fulfill his potential. There has been extreme frustration building in that franchise over the years, and especially this season, about his lack of commitment to conditioning, to diet, to the lifestyle that's necessary at this point to be available on a consistent basis. When he went out with that calf strain on Christmas, there wasn't sympathy within the Mavericks organization. There was frustration, even anger. They felt like he hasn't done the things to position himself to again, fulfill his potential and be available. and they were terrified of making a supermax $350 million commitment to him this summer. They felt like they needed to get out in front of that, and so they called the Lakers, and this deal came together.
Well, honestly, Randy, due to FCC regulations, and I want you guys to invite me back on the show, I can't actually say what I said, but I will say this. This isn't me being intoxicated with hyperbole. This is the most unbelievable trade in league history because no one saw it coming, including LeBron. Like, I'm still in shock. We all are. The way Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal were reacting on the sidelines, looking at the phone, that was all of us. Patrick Mahomes is tweeting about how sick he is, and this guy has a somewhat important football game next Sunday. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
So not even a Beyonce tour announcement could drown this out.
Well, I think it's very interesting on a couple of levels. Number one, if you're the Dallas Mavericks, clearly you lost all faith in Luka Doncic. That's a story that's going to follow Luka for a long time. You're 25 years of age, your career, not just this season, but a career, 28-point-per-game scorer, a 28-8-8 player. You just guided the team to the NBA Finals, and they're saying sayonara to you. Why would they do that at the age of 25, scheduled to be 26 at the end of the month? It's because of his constant conditioning issues, the lack of focus and discipline when it comes to keeping himself in shape. This is the kind of things that they talk about. Then when you look at the Dallas Brass, yes, you have head coach Jason Kidd. Yes, you have president of basketball operations and GM Nico Harrison. Let's keep that name, Nico Harrison, in mind. You were an executive at Nike for 19 years. Okay, you worked with Michael Jordan, you worked with Kobe Bryant, you worked with LeBron, you worked with an abundance of people. You're not only used to superstardom, you're used to players who are very, very much committed to being the greatest that they can possibly be. You lose a championship in the case of a Kobe Bryant or LeBron or anybody else a week later. You like, what the hell do we need to do in order to get ourselves back and to do what we can? In the case of Luka Doncic, you come in out of shape and you've got people talking about you literally using the word fat to describe him. That certainly isn't the Dallas Mavericks organization, but beat writers and everybody else covering the Dallas Mavericks know that there's been conditioning issues, discipline issues, and what have you. So do you invest with a new ownership coming in that's no longer Marc Cuban, who doesn't have a majority stake anymore? It's Adelson family and those folks. 3 or 5 years, over in excess of $325 million, that was an investment that they were hesitant to make. That's the Luka Doncic side. The other side to this is it puts the ball in the hands of Kyrie Irving with Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis had been clamoring to be a 4 again, not a 5. Well, you've got Gafford, you got Lively and other folks in Dallas. Now he doesn't have to play the 5. He could play his natural 4 position. So you've got that inside-outside attack, even though Anthony Davis is stepping away from the basket. You've got a Kyrie Irving, who is a showstopper, who is box office when he is balling. And he obviously loves playing for Jason Kidd and Nico Harrison, 2 individuals he's had long relationships with. So the ball is in Kyrie Irving's hands now. Unlike Luka Doncic, let's understand that Kyrie Irving is a champion. Kyrie Irving helped LeBron James win the championship. He almost helped Luka win the championship and helping them get to the finals last year, averaging what he was averaging throughout the postseason. So you've got that element there. And then in Los Angeles, you look at Anthony Davis. He's gone now. It's LeBron James, one of 2 players in the NBA with a no-trade clause, him and Bradley Beal. If you're LeBron James, do you look at this team as a championship squad with conditioning issues and what have you involving Luka Doncic? We don't know what LeBron James may decide to do. Does he want to stay in L.A.? Is he going to ask to exercise that no-trade clause or ignore it and just say, hey, let's move on. Let's move on to a different situation because I don't know if I'm going to win a championship right now. Those really are the big questions right now in regards to this trade. Luka is Luka, and he's going to be in Los Angeles, and that's a box office. He's a global iconic figure. The Los Angeles Lakers, they like that. And they know that they have somebody with box office appeal. So he is the future. LeBron James is the present and the past in the Lakers' mind right now. What will LeBron James do about that? That's a huge question mark, and that's where the intrigue lies.
Listen, I was out celebrating my friend's birthday when I saw the tweet, and I did the same thing everyone else who knows Charania did, which is text him to make sure he wasn't hacked. And is this real? Right? But I'm glad you just ran that highlight of all the players the Lakers have traded for in the past, because it speaks to what I'm about to talk about. And it's this concept of Lakers exceptionalism. Okay. There's a reason why the rest of the league does not like the Lakers. It's because they always seem to find a way to pull off trades and get generational talent like this. How did they end up with Kobe Bryant? How did they end up with Pau Gasol 17 years to the day of this Luka Doncic trade? When the reaction to that Pau Gasol trade was very similar to the one I got last night from league executives and from players around the league, which is simply, wait, how is this not available to everybody else? How did he end up on the Lakers? And there's this sort of jealousy around the league that the Lakers get deals like this. And I think it's, look, I've lived here my entire life. I grew up with the Showtime Lakers. And so I understand the makings of this. And you'll always hear fans talk about how they got Kareem or Magic. And whenever there's a star player in the league, Hannah, the Laker fans like to do this. They take their picture and they put a Lakers jersey on them, and the rest of the league hates Laker fans for doing that. But there's a reason why they do it. It's because the Lakers tend to pull off trades like this.
Well, Hannah, it's certainly way up at the top. And I was trying to think of with other old people, old enough to remember, and I don't remember because I was a tiny little kid when Wilt Chamberlain was traded. Wilt, yes, was traded. And so from the Warriors back to Philadelphia. And it was the mid-1960s, and of course there was I don't know if the words breaking news had been uttered at that time, but we're talking 60 years since there's been this type of shock waves over a trade. And I'll just say this, it's funny listening to the people who got up this morning to find out, because some of us were up and found out in live time. And so after midnight Eastern time, Sharms posted this, and immediately people went to text to reach out to each other to say, this is so insane, we don't believe it. Maybe Sharms was hacked. And there were industry insiders, players, scouts, former players. People are texting each other, media folks, executives, because this was under such wraps. If LeBron and Anthony Davis didn't know, then nobody knew. And people were texting each other furiously after midnight. Before SportsCenter came on at like 1-something Eastern after Gonzaga Santa Clara or whatever game was on late, to say this can't be real. This trade is so fantastical it couldn't have happened. At a time we're told constantly that trades aren't going to be able to take place like this anymore leading up to this deadline. And here you are with this unbelievable blockbuster doesn't really even describe what happens here. The Dallas Mavericks are getting rid of somebody who is sort of, with all due respect to Dak Prescott, at least his equal and at least as big a star, if not bigger, in Texas, in all of Texas. And going forward, he's 26 years old. So you have that, and you have Anthony Davis, who just last week was saying, we need another big in Los Angeles to pursue another title for LeBron and me and the Lakers. And all of a sudden, they're switched out. It's difficult to believe in real time, and now we've had some hours to digest it and get on with the details of what this will look like. But in real time, I don't think many of us believed that we were going to be having this discussion on Sunday morning.
What now happens from him like the rest of the week?
It's embracing the fact that he is now the face of this Lakers franchise. And we've been talking over the last several weeks, them needing to make one or two moves to potentially get in a position to win a championship, and LeBron James and Anthony Davis feeling like they were one or two pieces away. This is a Lakers team that's kind of going more into youth and really going all in on Luka Doncic's future. He's 25 years old, a generational player. They believe he's going to be the face of the franchise for the next 10 years. I'm told he's going to arrive to Los Angeles, have his physical tomorrow on Monday, and the thing that I'm focused on as well is the relationship between him and LeBron James. Yeah. And the respect he has for LeBron James over the last few years, it's going to be a very symbiotic relationship. And we saw him learn a lot of lessons from Kyrie Irving the last couple of seasons. I think how he absorbs the lessons from LeBron James on how LeBron James takes care of himself, his body, mentally, physically, emotionally, every single day, I think that's only going to take Luka Doncic to a whole nother level.
We've seen a lot of cross-sport comparison. So what would the NFL equivalent be of this Luka for AD deal?
Yeah, first he said it started with a coffee. I'm just making sure I don't have the same kind of coffee that he drinks. I don't want to get caught up in something like this. The one I came up with was Micah Parsons to Tampa from Dallas for Mike Evans. And the reason I thought this was comparable, and I don't know the NBA salary cap, like somebody might tell me it's crazy, but it's a player in Dallas who is, Dallas oddly enough, the best player on the team, And in this hypothetical situation, they would be moving him for reasons that have little to do with production and everything to do with how long they want to commit to him long term. Bringing in a veteran, who is signed and under control and who has somewhat reliable production. That was my, without knowing too much about the ins and outs of the NBA and how trades work there, that was my comparison. But two big superstar players, one of whom the fans of his team cannot possibly imagine the idea of him being traded.
Yeah, no,
Did that work? Did I get it right?
I can't say, because I don't want anybody in Micah Parsons' orbit to be like, hold on a minute, there's never been a question about our guys' work ethic the way there has been about Luka Doncic. Right. And Dan's not saying that either. So we're just, again, this is just the conversation.
Please.
That's how big this trade has been. Dan Graziano.
Take my coffee.
Low-key hoop head, okay? He was at Georgetown with Mutombo and Mourning.
I cannot begin to tell you how many people asked me if you had been hacked. I can't possibly fathom how many people must have asked you if you had been hacked. Take everybody through everything they need to know. How in the wide, wide world did we get from where we were Saturday morning to where we are now?
Yeah, I mean, I thought my phone was hacked when I got the text messages with the details of the trade and when I got wind of the deal. But you peel back the curtain, and for the Mavericks, they honestly internally believe that this move puts them in a better position to win a championship. Of course, there are issues that they had, obviously, with Luka Doncic, his conditioning levels to an extent, but they have that belief. And when you think about the next several months, the next few years, that we're going to know the exact answer to whether they were right in this decision or if they were wrong. And they want to pair Anthony Davis as a center defensively with Kyrie Irving. They probably need another addition as well in the backcourt. They have 3 first-round picks now that they can use. And I don't think the Lakers at any point this season expected to be in contention to moving Anthony Davis. They didn't seek to move Anthony Davis, but when Nico Harrison, the Mavericks general manager, called and offered Luka Doncic, that changed the game.
Yeah, within the league, what the reaction was this. Even if you decide that Luka Doncic is not going to be your franchise player, and that's a repudiation of one of the highest levels we've ever seen, but there are people in the league who say, okay, the Mavericks have more information on Luka than anybody else. If this is what they believe, then they made their decision. People in the league can kind of get that. What people in the league don't understand is why they wouldn't then open this up to a wide market to get the best deal. And get a bidding war going. But okay, if the Mavericks decided that the player they wanted, no matter what bidding war happened, was Anthony Davis, okay, you make a deal with the Los Angeles Lakers. But within that deal with the Lakers, what the league can't understand is, how do you not get everything from them? How do you not get Austin Reeves? How do you not get both first-round picks that they have? Heck, even if you couldn't get Austin Reeves because the mechanics of doing a trade are much more difficult, how do you not get both first-round draft picks the Lakers have? That's what the league was reacting to. What was left on the table with the Lakers, not to mention what could have been left on the table across the rest of the league.
Well, like everybody else, I mean, I'm laying there and I was in bed, and when I get the news and my phone's blowing up, and finally you start to go, man, something going on at home? Is there a family problem? So I roll over, I grab my phone, I see 32 missed messages, and I'm like, what does that say? I had to grab my glasses and read it. I couldn't believe what I was reading. So shock doesn't begin to describe the way I feel about this trade. I'll put it this way. I'm more shocked about this trade than I have been about any trade in any sport at any time ever, period. You're talking about a once in a generational talent. The best offensive player that this organization has ever had, and he's 25 years old. He's already been to a conference final. He's been to a final. I understand whatever concerns they have are probably legitimate about some of his conditioning issues, if that's really what this is about. But I'm telling you right now, there is nothing that I can say that would adequately describe how shocked not only I am, every single person I talk to in this league.
Yeah, Greeny, I think we're transitioning from player empowerment to ownership empowerment.
over the last several months, I've been spending a lot of time with a lot of different owners. And one of the common things I continue to hear is around this affinity for the NFL and the way the NFL operates. Now, there are a couple of players, maybe a handful, that can dictate terms and can kind of force the issue. But for the most part, that the owners are the ones that have the power. And I think now you have a new ownership group. And just like Leg said, a once in a generational type player, right? Like, think about that. A once in a generation type player was moved because I don't think this had anything to do with on the court. I don't think ownership and Nico Harrison felt comfortable where it meant for the future of the organization. And that's a new ownership group since Marc Cuban has been dwindled down a little bit, stating like, hey, look, this is my organization. This isn't your organization. This isn't a situation that's going to be forced like a Kawhi Leonard. This isn't going to be a situation that's going to be forced like a Jimmy Butler. I'm going to tell you what I want to do with my franchise. And I think that is a huge sea change because even agents feel like there is no player that is not on notice right now. No player cannot be moved. And I think actually Greeny is going to give a lot of owners the confidence who may have been on that teetering line of, well, I'm afraid of the backlash from the media. I'm afraid of the player empowerment from other players wanting to come to my organization, that now they're going to be able to make those moves or force the change that they want to see with their organization.
Fans not taking it well. This was the scene yesterday outside their arena. They staged a protest and a mock funeral for Luka Doncic. Jay, anything in sports could make you this kind of upset?
I don't think so, Greeny, but what I will tell you, though, is that, sometimes when you burn down forest trees, it gives a chance to replenish the soil, to let the next iteration of it grow in. And if the Mavs find a way to win a championship, fans will come back and think about this moment. They might still not like the move, but they will be happy they won a chip.
We'll see what happens. They better do it soon. We're on our way to much more conversation about this as we go. So the Lakers.
Well, Grinny, for me looking at it, I got to go Dallas. In fact, once we digested that this was not a joke, I'm sitting in the cab on the way home from the Lakers-Knicks game, and I'm like, I actually don't hate this for Dallas. I mean, you look at what Anthony Davis brings in terms of his two-way ability, his presence in the paint, his scoring. He's been available in the last couple of seasons, which he deserves a ton of kudos for. And Kyrie Irving is still capable of being an A1. I mean, essentially, the Dallas Mavericks had defenders flanking Luka Doncic to come up or to cover for his skills on that side of the floor. So if this team can continue to defend at a high level, I think they have offensive prowess. In the right now, I definitely would give the edge to Dallas.
Crazy 36 hours it has been since Shams wasn't hacked and this deal took place. Let's do a game of Explain Your Tweet. Kendrick Perkins tweeted, quote, Dallas won in this trade. AD and Kyrie are going to be special. Plus, they didn't have to give up Lively, Gafford, or P.J. Washington. God bless America. Here he is, Big Perk, joining the party this morning, along with the Windman and Monica McNutt. And we've got Charles Barkley, Michael Wilbon, and Stephen A. Smith still to come. Good morning, Big Perk. Explain that tweet. How did Dallas win this trade?
Granny, listen, when you look at what the Dallas Mavericks, obviously they gave up Luka Doncic, but I've been saying all season long that this has been the best team that they surrounded Luka with. Now you get rid of him because of the leadership of Kyrie and the play of Kyrie and whatever other reasons that was going on behind the scenes, and you add Anthony Davis, who's going to go out there on a consistent basis and give you 25 and 12 and lock up on the defensive end, and you're able to keep Daniel Gafford and Lively so that they could be the centers and AD can move to the power forward, and then you add in the equation of P.J. Washington, the player Spencer Dinwiddie, and Quentin Grimes. All those guys have been playing well. The Dallas Mavericks are the second best team in the Western Conference right now, currently constructed, once you add AD to the mix.
Well, I want to give him his flowers, Greeny, for standing up. He didn't run. A lot of general managers, when they make trades, they put out statements or they don't go right to the press conference. I want to give Nico his flowers for standing up, saying what he had to say, stand for. He stood on business. Now we're going to sit back and watch. This is going to be one of the best reality TV shows probably in the history of sports. Greta, this trade was a shocker for a couple reasons. Number one, it came out of nowhere, first and foremost. But secondly, what's really intriguing, normally when you trade a great player, you get a bunch of junk in return. The Mavs got a great Anthony Davis. So Luka's great. Anthony Davis is great. This is going to be one of the most fascinating things. And the thing is, it's going to be fascinating probably for the next 10 years. The Mavs won the trade for the immediate next three or 4 years. But the Lakers got a bright future if they put the right pieces around Luka.
It's stunning. It's a stunning not a development, just a move. To be sitting around like I was still awake. Greeny, dealing with you is like dealing with Kornheiser. You guys are in bed at a time where I could be in Asia because I'm like 12 hours different than you and Tony. Charles and I are on more of the same schedule. I called Charles the moment I heard about this trade. It's like 1 a.m. Eastern. Chuck knows he had a voicemail from me saying, what is this? Was Shams hacked? I don't even believe this. That's how shocking it was. I know you and Tony Kornheiser were sound asleep. Chuck and I were not. But it's so stunning, and it's not a secret, Greeny. Everybody knows that people feel in the industry, around teams, opposing players, all-time great players like Charles, Luka's not in shape. He hasn't been in shape. He doesn't get there. Or he starts camp there. There are people out there now that I talked to yesterday saying he's like 265 pounds or north of it. That's not sustainable to be great. Ask Zion Williamson how that goes. So the Mavericks are seeing all these tissue injuries. He's playing fewer and fewer games. People talk about Anthony Davis missing games. Luka hasn't played in more than 70 games but once in his career. One time. He plays in the 60s all the time. This year, he's played 22 games. So as great as he is, and my God, he is great, and he is box office. Anthony Davis, not box office, so he is a great two-way player. But as great as Luka is, you're going to commit to $350-some million, just like Charles just said. When you can't convince a guy to get in shape, maybe it'll turn out different. Maybe this is the slap in the face he needs. Because the Mavericks have said, you're not the alpha male you think you are, or you've been that, but we don't think you're that going forward. And so LeBron James, he's going to go, presuming LeBron is there, he's going to go team up with a guy who is legendary for being in the best possible shape of any human being playing the game, on a short list of all-timers with Kareem, with Kobe, with Tom Brady, if you want to go cross-sport, with Derek Jeter. Can Luka, can he understand that to be the greatest player he can be and worth a $350 million commitment, he's got to be in a condition that he's not in? Can he do that? So that's largely why Nico Harrison said, no, I don't want to do this. I don't want to commit to this.
Well, first things first, always beautiful to be on with the Godfather, my big brother, Mike Wilbon. Let's get that out the way, big boy. Secondly, and most importantly, I was absolutely shocked, Greeny. I was stunned because obviously Luka's a generational talent, one of the top 5 players in the NBA, 25 years of age, averaging 28 a game, fresh off of leading the league in scoring, averaging nearly 34 a game last year, has taken the team to 2 Western Conference Finals, 2 in NBA Finals as well. You've seen what he has been capable of doing, and to see a guy of this magnitude, 6 years younger than Anthony Davis, coming to the Los Angeles Lakers, it's clearly a big-time move for the Lakers from the standpoint of finding that next generational talent to represent the purple and gold. We understand why they did it. He's younger, obviously. He's box office. The Lakers, unlike most teams in the NBA, where they're completely dependent on the Lakers franchise generating revenue for them, as opposed to these owners that have their businesses and the NBA is like a side business for them. You see why the Lakers would do this, obviously so. In the case of the Dallas Mavericks, what I walked away thinking was, I heard all the stories. I've spoken to numerous sources, obviously. We hear about the conditioning issues, the fact that Luka was scheduled to come back February 8th, but it wasn't going to be up to them at all. It was at the mercy of Luka Doncic because he had his own team and they would make their own decisions and stuff like that. Regardless of the headaches that he may have caused, the issues as it pertains to his conditioning, I found myself saying, there is more to this story. You do not give up somebody this great, this young, this generational, this box office, just because of conditioning issues and it being a headache when he produces those kind of results. And before anybody would question that coming from me, I will remind everybody, I covered Allen Iverson for the first decade of his career. Anybody that's ever been a beat writer knows there's the beat, which is the team, and then there's a separate beat when you got somebody like Allen Iverson covering. You understand? Allen Iverson, as much as I love him, he knows how many of my vacations he has ruined. He and I had a running joke. He always got in the stuff when I was on vacation. It was never when I was working. It was always when I was on vacation. He's ruined about 5 vacations of mine in my career. This is what he did, okay? You know, when something like this happens, there's more to the story. Perhaps we'll find out down the line, but it is what it is, and we see what we see. Oh, I was shocked. I was shocked because I couldn't believe that any franchise, it's the biggest shock that I've ever seen covering the NBA all of these years, guys. Luka's 25 years old. He averaged 34 last year. He's career 28-point-per-game scorer, universally recognized as one of the top 5 players in the world. Not to mention, being from Slovenia, he has global appeal. He is an iconic international basketball brand, which explains on the Lakers side, that's an easy one. They got their succession plan in place. You've secured one of the biggest stars for the next decade. So this is what the Lakers do because their primary source of income is their basketball franchise, obviously. It's not one of them owners that got, this is a side gig. This is it. So this is what the Lakers do, and they always secure a big-time star. In the case of the Dallas Mavericks, to have that star in your possession and for him to be gone just left me with a raised eyebrow. You're hearing a lot of things about conditioning, lack of dedication, the fact that it became much of a headache for them. Very, very frustrating. He's scheduled to come back February 8th, Shannon, from his calf injury. And then, then they're telling folks, well, you know what? That's really not up to us. It's up to his team. And when you think about orchestrating a champ or, just assembling a championship squad, they felt, despite his greatness, he was an impediment to that, as opposed to, being something that was a contributor to that. Again, there's one of the top 5 players on the planet, and you're shocked by that. So I looked at it from that standpoint, and I said, there's so much more to this that we don't know. There is so much more of this that speaks to their level of frustration and, dare I say, potential fury, no matter what they say, no matter what they try to deny. Shannon, do you realize by sending Luka to Los Angeles, he is no longer eligible for the Supermax? They've cost him over $100 million by trading him from Dallas to L.A. and didn't care. In the end, you take all of that into consideration. There's so much more to this story. Kyrie, the ball's going to be in his hands. Him and Anthony Davis is going to be the cornerstones offensively. You get all of that stuff. LeBron James, what's he going to do? Even though everybody's saying he's staying, some people saying he should waive his no-trade clause, go to the state of New York. We'll get into all of that later. But this move, to see somebody of Luka's caliber be traded like this, not to be told. Even his agent, Bill Duffy, didn't know, who's a veteran, one of the great, great agents this business has ever known. He didn't know. Luka didn't know. You don't see that happening very often. It's definitely a change in the landscape. Owners are loving this. It's sending the right kind of message in their eyes. We're the ones in control, not them. All of that comes into play with this one move. It was a statement being made, as far as I'm concerned, not just by the Dallas Mavericks, but by the league. And I think the fallout is going to be dramatic, to say the least.
Absolutely. I think there's just 2 absolutely fascinating things. One, on the Dallas side, they had Luka Doncic under what they say in the league, under control, okay? He had qualified for the Supermax. That meant that this summer they were going to sign him to a 5-year extension. The ability to lock down a player in his mid-20s who's one of the greatest players in the league on a 5-year extension is the dream for franchises. That's what the Thunder can do with Shai Gilgeous-Alexander this summer. And I'm telling you, on June 30th, Oklahoma State troopers are going to be there to escort the piece of paper into his house so that the paper doesn't blow away in the wind to make sure that they sign it. That's how amazing it is. And the Mavericks looked at that and said, you know what? We don't think he's worth $350 million. Yeah. We can't stomach even giving it to him. So that's one unbelievable situation with a 25-year-old guy who's been a 5-time first-team All-NBA player. I just want to point something out. Steph Curry hasn't made first-team All-NBA 5 times. This guy's 25. He's already done that. Okay. Then you have the Lakers side. They just hit a grand slam, all right? They were not going anywhere this year. They may have gotten hot at the right time and healthy at the right time, and LeBron and AD played great at the right time, and they may have gotten to the second round of the playoffs. But this team had a ceiling on it. which is one of the reasons why there was such, hope that they could use their their trade assets to somehow get a player like this. They now not only are able to make an incredible value trade. That's right. I just said they traded Anthony Davis, who is going to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, and it was a value trade because they got incredible value for him because they get a 25-year-old who is not even in his prime yet, who has the potential to be a dominant player for the next decade. And then they, Stephen A., get to sign him to that 5-year contract this summer, and they get to do it at a $100 million discount that they wouldn't have to play if he was on the Supermax. Now, a lot of how this is going to work is going to depend on what the Lakers do going forward from here, because they have to use what they still have and build a team around him. They've got incredibly important decisions to make going forward. They've got to get the most out of Luka, which the Mavericks apparently didn't think they could do. But those two things happening in the same moment were incredible in the history of the league.
Stephen A., I was shocked. Stephen A. and I was texting because the Lakers had just beaten the Knicks. Yes. And so I was going, Stephen A. and I was going back and forth. He sending emojis. I'm sending emojis. And then I'm like, WTF, is this real? Because the last time Shams really sent something out, it was the Kawhi. And I thought he was hacked again. So I'm like, ain't no way. There's no possible way that a 25-year-old, because we've never seen a 25-year-old unless he has requested, said I'm not re-signing, and they move him to get assets. But to say, nah, we don't need your request. We're moving on. And guys, I hate getting into conjecture. I hate getting into speculation and innuendo. But the first thing I'm like, what must have Luka done that the general population and the public does not know that Nico Harrison and that organization know? You don't move a guy like that. And they're looking, says Luka, the continuation of coming in unconditioned, to coming in your training, we believe that's leading into some of your injuries. This is what Nico Harrison said. I just say there's levels to it. There are people that fit the culture, and there's people that come in and add to the culture. And those are two distinct things. I believe the people that are coming in are adding to the culture. Anytime I hear that word culture, guys, my ears perk up. My ears perked up about 2 years ago when Rick Carlisle would not sign an extension. Stephen A., as long as you've covered this league and been around it, when do you do the same thing? When does a coach has a generational talent and he refuses to sign an extension? Now, we've seen those guys get fired, but to not sign an extension when you got a Luka, when you got a LeBron, when you got a Larry Bird or Magic, that doesn't happen. And so there's a lot more to this than meets the eye, but it seems to me the Mavericks were had it up to here. And whatever here is it here? Is it here? But they had had enough of Luka, and they didn't believe. We don't trust you now, and you're making 40. If we give you 70, there's no possible way we can control you.
First off, it was a jolt the NBA needed. This was a great story for the NBA, start of Super Bowl week. They also have the other trade later on, which helps too. But listen, this guy is a top 3, top 4 player in the NBA, in the league. We all know that. He's a superstar. I understand he's, who knows? Is he 260 pounds? And then you got the Lakers, who is the NBA marquee franchise, they and the Celtics. So to me, it was a perfect storm for the National Basketball Association in which they needed. And listen, anytime you can get this kind of player who is 6 years or 5.5 years younger than Anthony Davis, LA, which is full of stars, that sells in that market. He can replace LeBron down the road when LeBron retires in a year or two. This is he's not perfect because you got to wonder a little bit about the conditioning issues, but this is a great trade for the Lakers. And most of the time, if you look at the history of the NBA, when the team acquires the great player, think Lakers with Kareem, that, of course, with that trade they made with the Bucks in the early 70s, when they acquire the great player, most of the time, the team that acquires the great player wins out on the deal. So, listen, I can understand why the Maverick fans are going crazy right now in Dallas. These kind of players don't grow on trees. He's 26 years of age. He'd be completely motivated to play with LeBron and in that market. I wonder about Anthony Davis and Kyrie, 32 and 33 years of age, working together in Dallas. They're not going to win an NBA championship. So this is a home run. And again, Dallas did not make this trade. The GM didn't make the trade. The owner made the trade. The owner did not want to have to deal with paying him $347 million. He sees what's going on with Butler. He don't want to pay him that kind of money when he's got some issues with his character. So they said, get him out. We'll deal with, and then it's the owner who makes, the GM didn't make. You don't make this kind of trade if you're the GM without running by the new ownership. So the ownership kind of signed off on this. And for whatever the reason, they soured on him with all these injuries and his weight issues. And so out he goes. Lakers won the trade. There's no other way around it. Are they going to win the NBA championship? No. But as far as the long-term future of the franchise for the Lakers, it's a home run.
My reaction was like everyone else. I was super shocked. This is the most shocking trade we've ever seen in NBA history. But I've been listening to the program this morning. You guys have made a lot of compelling points. I want to try to fill in the gaps on some of these circumstances. This trade was seismic, right? The first thing that came to my mind was player empowerment. The last decade or so, the NBA has been dictated by the players, where they want to go. I mean, we're seeing this situation happen with Jimmy Butler, but this feels different, right? It's no longer this idea that the players are all powerful. You have GMs that are making moves in the quiet. And this type of move was huge. It was shocking. And then secondly, you think about LeBron James. You think about Kevin Durant. You think about Steph Curry. It really feels like the transfer of power is here. This feels like the first real acknowledgement that we have to really stop and smell the roses and enjoy what they have done for the game. Because right now we see the succession plan in full effect when it comes to the Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron. And lastly, I'll say this. I use the word seismic for a reason, because when trades like this happen, put your head on a swivel. There are ripple effects. There are players in locker rooms that have new teammates that are like, is my role here good? You might still see some interesting movement in the near future. But as it pertains to the Los Angeles Lakers, it was all about the long term. And I think it's wild, coming off of the heels of a game versus your New York Knicks, seeing LeBron James go for a triple-double. This was a game that was his highest usage so far this year, and now you bring in Luka Doncic to help alleviate that. That's what LeBron James has been looking for a long time, a secondary ball handler, another playmaker, and now you've got one that happens to be, as you guys mentioned, the third highest scoring average in NBA history that is 25 years old. So now you're looking at the long term for Los Angeles. Now, they clearly still have needs at the center position, and most importantly, defensively, because that's a strong backcourt with LeBron, Luka, and Reeves, but they're going to have to defend, especially without their rim protection. So this is all about the Lakers in the long term, and I do believe that they won this trade because of that. They've got one of the best players. I mean, other than Victor Wembanyama, under the age of 25, they've got a star, a certified top 3 player in the NBA for the next few years to come. And lastly, I'll say this, when it comes to Lakers, if this does not make Luka Doncic mad, if this does not piss him off to the point of greatness, if this does not develop a huge chip on his shoulder to be an MVP in the next few years when he has the requisite team, I don't know what will. Because you remember the criticism that happened during the NBA Finals this past year. It was all about the blow-bys and how he had lackluster defense. And you think about that. And how did he respond? With question marks as pertained by the Dallas Mavericks, to the point that forced him to be traded. If this does not put him on point for the years to come, I don't know what will. And I think we might get the best version of Luka moving forward in a Los Angeles Lakers uniform.
That sentiment. Josh Hart posted this simple question. So who are the untouchables in the league? Okay, Perk, I want to ask you this. What message does this trade send to the NBA, to the players?
Oh, that no one is safe. Anybody could be traded. Joel Embiid, down there in Philly, you better get your stuff together. You better find a way to get in better shape. Find a way to take care of your body. Now, I know some injuries are out of your control, but what this has done with this trade has woke the league up all across the board. And it should be a reality check for all the players, whether you the franchise guys to the last man on the bench. You could be traded if you're not getting the job done. Teams are paying you top dollar, and they expect top performances from you, and not just performances on the floor, meaning of being professional off the floor.
Massive surprise in the WWE. Then that would be followed up just moments later by I don't even know how to say this. Volcanic
earth-shattering
eruption of what? from the NBA when Charania would put out a tweet saying that Luka Doncic, the man who has been the face of the Dallas Mavericks, the man who took the Dallas Mavericks to the finals less than a year ago, the man who's been synonymous with not only that city, that team, that franchise, but also the NBA as a whole, has got his fat ass, if you listen to the way Dallas Mavericks were talking about it, shipped to Los Angeles for Anthony Davis, who once again was the man that the Lakers were going to build around. This is the future. The team can't be operating around LeBron James. He's too old. This team's got to run through Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis, very comfortable in his locker. Okay, very comfortable. Saying we need another big guy, we need a point guard or something like that. If we want to really make a run at this thing, this is what we're going to need. Everybody around the league is talking about how Anthony Davis is the focal point. Everybody talking about Dallas, Luka Doncic's team, Kyrie joining Luka. And instead now, both of them gone. New teams, new era, new time. Charania comes into ESPN, and he had haters behind the scenes who didn't think he was the guy who's supposed to be the senior insider, and drops a big old, suck it, 91 million views on this tweet alone. At this point, that's going to be up over 100 million. You're talking about maybe the biggest trade, okay, in the history of sports. Now, they're taking it back old school to a 31-year-old Wilt, I believe, who got traded in 1968 or something. I understand that there is been big movement in the past, but this one, gigantic, earth-shattering, volcanic-like surprise of, whoa, are you serious?
This obviously, Pat, you saw me. I was lounging at my house. You posted the picture of me with my unmade hair and my glasses. You gave yeah, there you go. You gave the viewers a look at how I am when I'm not doing anything.
Yeah, you weren't expecting that.
This is as much of a move for the future, Brian, of Los Angeles as it is for the now here. What is the most important part about this from LA's perspective?
On July 1st, 2018, that was when LeBron said he was going to come to the Lakers. From that day forward till February 1st, 2025, everything the Lakers did was about LeBron. Now it is going to be about Luka. And I don't think that's an issue. I don't think that's a controversial statement. I think that's something the Lakers organization needed to do. I don't know if they knew how they were going to do it, but now they have their transition in place, and now everything going forward will be about the man on the left, not the guy on the right.
Yeah, I heard when Luka flew in last night, certainly there was a lot of disappointment, anger, a lot of emotions. And when he got in, he got off the plane, he spoke to Rob Pelinka for a while, and that's when reality started hitting, like, yo, I'm a Laker. This is kind of cool. This is great. I'm amongst celebrities. I'm in LA. There's a history here. And then after that, he went to dinner with an old teammate, JJ Redick.
Now is head coach?
Yeah. So now he's his head coach, and he's in the facility today getting a physical. Press conference tomorrow, and I'm hearing he's targeting next week. The Lakers play at home against Utah next Monday, and on the road in Utah next Wednesday, a potential return from his calf injury.
So we could be seeing Luka as soon as next week, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay, that's very interesting and something to watch here. Let's just take a step back real quick. My first question when I saw this come in is, why does this make sense for Los Angeles? You're moving away from part of your cornerstone of the championship team in 2020 and Anthony Davis. Why does this pairing make sense?
Well, I think the pairing makes sense because it's a win-now move right now when you get a 25-year-old All-NBA, five-time All-NBA, and a player generationally for the future. I think when you're the Lakers and you're Rob Pelinka, eventually LeBron James is going to retire and not be in this league. Who is going to be the face of this organization? And certainly you go out and you make this type of trade for Luka Doncic, and that's the guy.
Yeah, well, the first domino, Malika, to fall, I reported over the weekend, was LeBron had no intention and has no intention of asking out before Thursday's trade deadline. So he's going to stay with the Lakers to play with Luka Doncic for the remainder of this season. Then he has a player option this summer that we assume he'll pick up, but actually there's a chance that he will renegotiate a new deal, and this Luka Doncic addition could extend LeBron James's career. It's not a given that next year will be his last year in the NBA. Luka Doncic at 25 years old, and all the skills that he brings and all the commitment the Lakers are going to have from here on out to improve this team, to make it championship ready, to make sure they get that extension agreement from Luka in a year and a half from now, will give LeBron a better team to play with. And so, there's obviously Charles Barkley said these guys don't fit. it could be just the opposite. Luka and LeBron could mean more of LeBron because of more of a chance to play championship caliber basketball with his addition.
That's interesting. Dave, thank you so very much. It looks like we're going to be hearing from Luka Doncic tomorrow. That's what we're hearing about when his press conference with the Lakers could be. Tim McMahon here, a lot of fans in Dallas, they're hurting after this trade. But Nico Harrison, he said he sees this as a win-now move. What exactly is Dallas betting on?
Yeah, they're betting on, as Nico has said repeatedly, defense, winning championships. And this is a win-now move, which is extraordinarily unusual when you trade a superstar player of Luka Doncic's caliber. Usually that's a rebuilding type of situation. But Nico has said that the Mavs are built to win now and in the future. Then he clarified that future being a 3 to 4 year time frame. And, you know, that's interesting, and that is music to the ears of a lot of the Mavericks' neighbors. The Oklahoma City Thunder own swap rights with the Mavericks from 2028. The Houston Rockets have the rights to their 2029 pick. The San Antonio Spurs have swap rights on 2030. These were all trades that the Mavericks made over the last few years, or from trades from over the last few years, when they were motivated to build a contender around Luka Doncic, hoping to convince him that Dallas could be his long-term home, that he would have chances to compete for championships in Dallas. And that all puts into perspective just how shocking and sudden a shift it has been to decide to get out of the Luka Doncic business for the Mavericks.
Now, I am a night owl by nature, hence this show, but we left it all in the park on that day, and for the first time in eons, I was out, asleep before midnight. The point of all this is to say I completely missed the Luka trade, so I didn't have to try to figure out in real time, did Shams get hacked? By the next morning, and in fact, several days later, up till right now, folks are still trying to piece together, how did this happen? How does Dallas move off a 25-year-old generational player who helped lead them to the NBA Finals last season? Maybe some breadcrumbs began to be laid out during the NBA Finals when Brian Windhorst came on this show right here and brought out a blowtorch.
I'm standing here in the Mavericks tunnel. Over there is the Celtics tunnel. That's where the winners are. His performance in this game is unacceptable and the reason why the Mavericks are not going to win.
He was talking about Luka, and as Brian pointed out on his most recent podcast, it is telling that in the remaining games of the finals, nobody from the Mavericks organization confronted him or corrected him. So when Windy asked rhetorically after the trade, how much do the Mavs hate him? I don't know. And the reactions from everybody around the league on every level is consistent. How do the Mavericks do this? We're the last to this days-old story on this show because we haven't been here. So you are familiar with all the questions everyone has brought forth. Why didn't the Mavericks call other teams? How is this all they got from Los Angeles? Though I would like to insert here that pretending like Anthony Davis isn't a superstar, a true superstar, is silly because he is, but he's not Luka. Now, the most difficult thing for a lot of folks in our business to ever do when there are so many questions we don't have the answers to is say, you know, I don't know. Why did it happen? What was the tipping point? Who won the trade? Well, no one knows at this point. I've seen plenty of opinions, and the scales do seem tipped heavy in the favor of the Lakers. But do we know how it's going to go from here? Hell, we don't know why it happened. Steve made the great point on our podcast Monday. People hate getting got, being caught completely off guard by anything, and this was that. When Jimmy Butler gets moved, it's going to be the end of a chapter in Miami that everybody was anticipating. Luka to the Lakers is not a story anybody had reasonably pondered. I presume it's a long-term win for the Lakers. If there's some underlying reason that the Mavericks moved off one of the best players in the game, I presume it will leak out. But if there's not, then late one February Saturday night, Dallas just decided to trade a 25-year-old five-time first-team All-NBA player, which would indeed qualify as one of the most baffling decisions that I can ever recall.
Mavs fans, your boy AD here.
What's up, it's Max Chris.
Max.
Yes, sir.
Man, we're excited to be part of the organization, be a part of the team. We're going to do something special with y'all, man.
We're winning a lot of games.
A lot of games. We're excited, and we can't wait to get on the floor, support the team, and do what we do best.
Yes, sir. Go Mavs.
Go Mavs.
All right, for more on this, we welcome in NBA insider Brian Windhorst with us now. And Windy, AD seems like he's ready for his future now with the Mavs. On the other side of things, we will hear from Luka today, but what should we know about his future in LA?
Yeah, I mean, I expect you'll see a lot of excitement from Luka Doncic today, but something that I think Laker fans should know is that they've got a little bit of work to do with Luka because he needs to get signed this summer. He's got 1 year left on his contract. And nobody talked about that in Dallas because everybody thought he was just going to take that supermax, 5 years and $345 million. Nobody has ever rejected that, so it wasn't a thing. Well, the Lakers don't get that. That goes away. There is no advantage for Luka to sign with the Lakers over any other team. So to get him to put his name on that contract in the summer, they've got to do some things the rest of this season to make sure he does that. They've got to sort of sell themselves, their vision of the team now, their vision of the team medium-term future, to lock him down. And I shouldn't think anybody should assume anything after seeing Luka Doncic traded.
My NFL comparison that was going through my mind yesterday was the Bills trading Josh Allen for Dak Prescott. Like, hey, you're really good. Now off the field, off the court, probably different conversations, but you're really good. You'll never get it done for us. And then Dak Prescott, really good, has reached really high levels. And Dallas is like, all right, we want a better player type of thing. That was my NFL comparison. I think it's wild to give up on talent. I think we have so many examples of all-time great talents figuring it out maybe a little bit longer than people want. I think it's insane what Dallas did.
Wendy, are you going to be comfortable and patient enough being deferential to somebody else having the ball in their hands? And if so, how long will that last? I think that makes for interesting intrigue. I'm not saying he won't do it, Perk. I'm saying I understand those who are intrigued by that possibility. In the end, we know that LeBron and Doncic, 6'7", 6'9", 200-plus pounds. Both of them can post you. They can play with their back to the basket. They can play facing the basket. They can hurt you in a myriad of ways. They're super players. We know what they can do together. So we expect the Lakers to make the playoffs. We expect those two together to make some noise and to showcase the level of greatness that's going to have us all fascinated. We can't wait to see them on the court together. But in the end, the bottom line is, what are you going to put around them? Because you need rebounders. You need defense, particularly on the front court after losing Anthony Davis. And the one thing that we can bet against LeBron and Luka Doncic in this regard, we can bet against them running back on defense a whole bunch of times and helping out. That's not their strength. You understand? And if you got thoroughbreds that's coming at them and pushing the ball up and down the court and making them run back on defense, those other Lakers are going to need to step up and make sure they do that job. That's it.
As they get an official photo, J.J. Redick comes in to dap up his newest player for his team. Luka Doncic officially announced as Los Angeles Laker. That's 77 jersey. Kyle Hamilton of the Baltimore Ravens put out a great tweet about it. He said, you're about to see that in every single frat house across the entire country. And that is that's a statement of fact right there. Lakers 77 with Doncic across the back. That's going to move. And, it's hard as you listen to that to think it all started with a cup of coffee down there in Dallas. And every answer that he gets, first of all, he looks pretty thin, looks pretty fit.
He does.
He looks pretty fit. Every time J.J. Redick was mentioned, Luka would smile. Really, the only time that he was smiling, I don't do podcasts, I do this twice, so. You tell me I like that. And he talked shit to him, too. He said, go move. So, he's saying real thing. It's almost like a perfect situation here for the Los Angeles Lakers. I appreciate the fact that Pelinka had 2 zippers on his jacket.
Yeah, awesome.
One in the attic, one in the basement.
Yeah, a little too much.
Yeah, just kind of give a little sauce. It's a big moment, biggest trade in the history of the NBA. He should be incredibly proud of himself. I don't look at it as who won, who lost the trade. I look at it as a partnership to get the deal done. Okay. I'd be looking at it that way, too, if I was Rob Pelinka. Once again, Anthony Davis is a dog. But if we start thinking about the situation that got Luka to Los Angeles at the age of 25, 5 out of his first 6 years in the NBA.
First team All-NBA.
Okay, last year, fresh off an NBA Finals.
First team All-NBA last year as well.
Okay, so all these things. Now he's joining LeBron, and he has 15 more years if he wants to. They talked about the sports performance team, obviously meeting up with Luka, coming out of the calf injury. There's the 2 other gentlemen that got traded. Congratulations to all the boys.
Yeah, boys.
Morris is a dog.
Yes, he is.
That's a great piece. there is a lot. Not that the Caucasian on the right there, who I do not know enough about
Max
clearly.
Kleber. Stroke it.
Okay, so if he can stroke it, you got ball dominant. You got LeBron as well. So if you got a buddy in the corner, okay, all of a sudden we got Mike Miller. Yeah. All of a sudden we're doing what we got to do over there in the corner. And maybe JJ even starts putting it up there and just sits on the side and starts draining shots. Congrats to the Lakers and congrats to us. Having a chance just to air a press conference for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
That was fantastic. I feel like I learned a lot. You know, Luka, not a man of many words. Doesn't do many podcasts.
No.
You know, he don't like those podcasts. I don't think I knew he had that strong of an accent. Don't think I had heard him talk much. But then whenever he talked about this is the most amount of media he's ever been in front of for a press conference, you immediately said it, D. But what a market for Luka to go into, especially at the age of 25.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of this. And I think, you know, his jersey's probably in the top 10 in sales, I would assume. It'll be number one for the next probably decade or so, because you're going out to that huge market. Like, I mean, we were in the middle of watching it still, like, I can't believe this is real. Like, a 25-year-old, we would assume still at the peak of his career, fresh off of finals appearances, you know, first team All-NBA pretty much every year. Like, to be paired up LeBron out in L.A., I mean, we were talking about the NBA not being as popular as, you know, and it's
It does feel like it's
been
a little
declining
work.
now. We got the biggest trade in probably sports history. But man, this is incredible, man. Luka in LA. Wow.
So much there, and no better panel to break it all down with. Rob Pelinka set the stage for this press conference, and he started it by saying, I think Luka Doncic joining forces with the Los Angeles Lakers is a seismic event in NBA history. And I don't think that was hyperbole here, Bobby. What stood out to you the most from what Luka said?
That he was willing to commit 5 years, $345 million, and basically spend the rest of his life in a Dallas Maverick uniform.
Yeah.
Usually we see players trying to force their way out of situations. Here's a player that wanted to be there long term.
Yeah, and Bobby brought this up yesterday, and now let's transfer that to what that means now. The Lakers do not have the Supermax to offer him. That's now against the rules. And so now they have a little bit of work to do between now and the summer. And Bobby talked about this yesterday, and Rob Pelinka talked about this today. They have to work on this roster. But in July, they're going to come to Luka, and they're going to offer him a 5-year contract extension, I assume, without the ability to offer the Supermax. And will Luka sign the 5-year?
Yep.
Will he sign something less than the 5-year? Will he not sign anything at all and roll over towards free agency in 2026? This isn't something that I think should keep people up at night, but it's something that Rob Pelinka has to begin thinking about immediately, including before the deadline on Thursday. And he openly talked about how they needed to get a center, and he called the market for centers right now dry.
Yeah, we're gonna hear from him in a minute.
That's interesting.
I ain't never seen this one. I've seen it all up until this one. I've never been a part of one transaction like that. That was different. It was shocking when I heard the news, but at the end of the day, I understand the business of basketball. I didn't make the decision, so. But it was just, shocking in the sense of who was involved, obviously. With Luka and AD. I don't know. I don't have much words for it.
What do you think it will take for this partnership to be really productive as best as can be?
Whatever we want it to be. It won't take long. I can play with anybody. And I think he can as well, so we'll work well together.
Any concerns that because you brought in a young star, that some of these priorities kind of might shift more towards the future rather than the present?
What's wrong with that? If I had concerns, I would have waived my no trade clause and got up out of here.
Okay, put your feet up, people. We've got time and we've got lots to say. Let me start with the look at Jay Will is fired up in an airport somewhere. Wendy, I will start with you. You are my LeBron whisperer. I have been waiting to hear him talk. That was a mouthful. How did you interpret all of the things we just heard from King James?
We heard from everybody. We've now heard from Luka. We've heard from Anthony Davis. We've heard from Kyrie. We've heard from LeBron. We've heard from Rob Pelinka. We've heard from Nico Harrison. And everything says, I know there's these conspiracy theories out there and everything. There is no conspiracy. Nobody knew. None of them were previously consulted. It hit all of them out of the blue. This was a decision made by Nico Harrison, ratified by Coach Jason Kidd, negotiated with Rob Pelinka. That's it. LeBron doesn't want out. LeBron isn't going to retire. Do you see those highlights? Do you think LeBron looks like a guy who's at the end? Has LeBron ever had a guy on his team that he hasn't been able to play with? There's no conspiracy here. It is just a shocking event in the NBA. And now that everybody has expressed that, we now can deal with the fallout, which is what all of these teams are doing as they move into tomorrow's trade deadline. And the Lakers are involved in talks elsewhere. But this is LeBron, I think, telling 100% the truth. And it is not normal. It is not normal that there will be a transaction on his team that he's not aware of or has approved. It is not something that's happened in years. That is what we heard. Is he upset about it? No. He's excited about it. He's still shocked about it. and he's excited about it. And I think that's the mindset that everybody involved and all the fans should have. It's a sense of amazement and a sense of wonder, and let's see what happens next.
So Luka's saying conditioning, not really an issue, not true, but he'll use it as motivation. Stephen A., your biggest takeaway from Luka's press conference and what you just heard there?
Things are going to get very, very exciting. We need to pay attention to Luka Doncic. He's going to have a huge, huge chip on his shoulder. And this is a guy that's 25 years of age, a career 28-point-per-game scorer, is the reigning scoring champion in the NBA, who was unceremoniously booted out of a franchise that drafted him instead of Trae Young, essentially. They could have had Trae Young. They wanted him. They traded up to get him. He thought he was going to be there. He thought he was going to finish his career there. That did not happen. You heard rumors that when he heard the news, he broke down and he cried because he was so devastated by being booted out of town by the Dallas Mavericks. And make no mistake, that's how he's taking it. That's how his dad, Sasa Doncic, is taking it. And as a result, when he said motive, he really meant motivation, obviously. He is highly motivated because he recognizes the question marks that have been thrown out there, and he considers, and his dad considers, his name being sullied. You could see it, you could hear it, and when you consider the talent that he's bringing to the table as a 25-year-old, he's quietly saying, hey, beware, here I come. There is truth to the fact that he has come in out of shape. There is truth that he wasn't in peak condition on several occasions. There is truth that when he was supposed to be at about 230, he was about 260. All of those things are true, but in the end, he played games. He didn't miss too many games, and he's looking at the fact that he took this team to 2 Western Conference Finals, an NBA Finals appearance as well. He's recognized as one of the great players in the game today, and he was unceremoniously dismissed.
They're dangerous. I mean, take it easy. They're dangerous. I don't know if they're... I mean, you're going to basically say they're championship worthy? I got to see that. They're dangerous, and I think they're better. I totally agree. They got the 2 best players maybe in the sport. Well, I can't put LeBron on that level at the moment, but Doncic I could. They got 2 of the top 5, 6 players in the sport now on their same team, and you couldn't say that with Davis, who both can handle the ball. So they're dangerous. I would not necessarily make them the favorite to come out of the Western Conference. And I might be dead wrong, and Windy knows a lot more about this than I ever do. I think this comes down to one thing. There's no way Harrison makes this trade just because he thinks Anthony Davis is better than Luka and he can fit with the team better and giving up 6 years. I think, this is me being a sports fan from afar, I think that ownership said, hold on now. We're going to pay this guy $350 million in September, and if he doesn't accept it, we're going to have a Jimmy Butler on our hands, and we think he's out of shape and he weighs 260 pounds. We're not doing that. And I think the message got to Harrison, you got to trade him. Do the best you can. You got to trade him. That's what I think, because there's no way
no one's denying that, dog.
General manager
That's exactly
in the
what they're
NBA
saying.
Can sit there and make a case that this trade is a good basketball trade for your franchise, especially when you're giving up 6 years. So there must be something else involved, and I don't think that owner, the new ownership, wanted to pay him $350 million.
That is what it is.
From afar, Wendy, you know a lot more about this than I do.
That is it. Well,
but that's a sports fan's logic there, thinking about why Dallas made this move.
But Shams, before we let you go, Saturday night you reported the deal that shook up the entire basketball landscape that brought Luka Doncic to Los Angeles, sent Anthony Davis to the Dallas Mavericks. Rob Pelinka has said, you know, we still have assets here, but there may not be that center that we all want to get out there right now. Are the Lakers done making moves between now and tomorrow's deadline?
Right now, sources with knowledge of the Lakers thinking tell me that the Lakers' priority and what they're trying to do is get pieces around the edges with this Lakers roster. Okay. Make upgrades in the margins, because they've made their massive blockbuster trade. To get off Anthony Davis, that was not in the cards for the Lakers going into the season, of course. But to get Luka Doncic, that's a massive opportunity. I think this summer, the Lakers are going to be very proactive. That's when there's going to be a wider pool of candidates potentially and options for the Lakers.
Shams, thank you so very much. We know how valuable your time is right now, so we appreciate you making some time for us here on NBA Countdown. That's the man with all the information. I turn to my friends as we tick down towards the trade deadline, and these trades and deals are starting to come together. Udonis, Captain Miami, I gotta ask you, is there a deal that you want to see done, a trade you want to see happen between now and tomorrow's deadline?
I'm praying that the Jimmy Butler documentary ends and that the Miami Heat finds a suitable, opponent, a suitable team for him to go to, and everybody's happy.
And you know what's crazy? Prayers could be answered. I know Shams is saying that in Phoenix, like they're happy with KD and D-Book, but where does KD go potentially? Does he stay? Does he go? Still question marks around there. I mean, this is a guy that's top 8 scorer in the league and 26 points away from 30,000.
They got 4.5 players right now, though. And the only person defending at a high level is Mark Williams.
That's fair.
We got Dorian Finney-Smith.
That's fair.
We got Vando.
Oh, yeah, Doe's defending at a high level.
But you have seen high-powered offenses knock off a few teams. I'm not saying you'll win a championship, but you can knock off some teams with a high-powered offense.
100%.
Before we let you roll, who is your favorite currently at the halfway point out of the East and the West?
OKC. And y'all, I think Cleveland doing something.
Okay.
I've been saying Cleveland for a while. Now, I'm not ready to give it. Listen. Cleveland was balling, and then they ran into Boston the other day. I still got to stay with Boston. I think Boston is just like, listen, we the champions. We don't have to exhaust ourselves during the regular season. Cleveland's going to have to show me Cleveland can beat them, but I still think you give the edge to Boston, and I think OKC is but Chet Holmgren and Hartenstein got to come back.
Absolutely, but I like them adding Daniel Tice in terms of size. Here's my thing, because I'm with you on Cleveland proving themselves in the postseason. What I think is different, though, it's Darius Garland, Kenny Atkinson, Evan Mobley. Like, I just think...
But I get you on Garland. Mobley I like a lot, but he's been shooting the ball exceptionally well. He's had the ball in his hands more. Is that going to happen? Is that going to last during the playoffs? I'm not worried about it. We all knew Kenny Atkinson could coach.
I just need him to be able to hit mid-range and still be a problem defensively. That Twin Towers defensively in the postseason?
Okay.
Before we get back to the Super Bowl, almost at the All-Star break, who's your favorites right now? East and West.
The Lakers?
No.
He don't even go to Laker games. He don't even get to. He don't even make it to Laker games.
Okay, in Boston.
OKC in Boston.
Oh, but the Lakers, they weren't done. Late last night, LA continued what was already one of the most consequential weeks in franchise history by acquiring center Mark Williams in a trade with the Charlotte Hornets. That's what our Shams Charania reported. Now, Williams is averaging 16 and 10 on 60% shooting in 23 games this season. So let's just take a look at what this full deal looks like. The Lakers received the 2022 15th pick in return for their 2024 first rounder. Fans were a little concerned about this one. Dalton Connect headed out, Cam Reddish, and an unprotected first, and then the 2030 pick swap as well. So I'm here with our Brian Windhorst, Ramona Shelburne, Dave McMenamin. Dave, you and I were sitting at a press conference a couple of days ago when Luka Doncic was introduced, and Rob Pelinka, the general manager of the Lakers, he said, or signified rather, we don't know that there is a center on the market that we would be willing to put our big chips in on. Fast forward, that is exactly what they did. Why did they see this as the move?
Luka got to L.A. on Sunday night. On Monday, he met with Rob Pelinka, and he said, listen, I need a big that I can play and have a lob threat. It could be a mobile screener. Go get me one. And Rob Pelinka listened to him and got him one. And Mark Williams, 23 years old, he's going to grow with Luka. This is about the future of the franchise, but it's also win now mode. LeBron and Luka have a lob threat.
Yeah, we heard Rob Pelinka say that the market for centers was dry, and I think it was. I don't think Mark Williams was actually available. I think the Lakers made him available by making an offer like this, and the Hornets couldn't turn it down. This is the bulk of their remaining assets. This is not a trade I think they would have made last week, obviously. I'm sure if you're Anthony Davis, you're saying, wait a minute.
Yeah.
I asked for a center for like a year, and now you guys go out and make this deal. He does have injury concerns. He's played 85 games in 2.5 seasons, but when he's on the court, he's the type of player that Dave was describing for Luka.
I will say this. The assets they were able to use in this deal are the assets that did not go to Dallas in the Luka deal.
That is exactly right.
Dalton Connect. Obviously, when Dallas first started having conversations with the Lakers, of course they asked for Dalton Connect. Of course they asked for both picks. But because they couldn't talk to Luka, because the Lakers couldn't loop in Luka and see if he wanted to be there, they were able to hold on more of their assets for a trade just like this.
Yeah, let's just take.
And now we have 5, 4, 3, 2. My friends. The 2025 NBA trade deadline, it has come and it has gone. I think we can all take a step back for just 1 second here and say, oh, this was a wild ride. Who saw Luka Doncic being traded to the Los Angeles Lakers when this week began? AD being on his way to the Dallas Mavericks, De'Aaron Fox heading to San Antonio, and maybe somehow the most shocking of all in some ways was that now we are going to be having this conversation, to your point, for the next 6 months. about what's going to happen with Kevin Durant, because his name was not even close to the tip of anybody's tongue a week and a half ago. And now there is going to be a full reevaluation for the rest of the season, and it's going to be an uphill battle for them.
NBA